So currently, I'm not an admin user, and you can see there is no admin link in the navigation menu. However, I can simply cheat and add admin here. And look, I got access to the admin page. So we need to protect our routes as well. Back in the project, in the services folder, I'm going to add a new service, auth-guard.service.ts. So we're going to create a route guard. I've covered route guards in my beginner's Angular course. So a-service, delete, and one more time. Okay, we're going to call this auth guard without the service. Now with this auth guard, you want to ensure that the user is logged in before they can access a given route. Later, we're going to create another auth guard to check for the user's role. So in the constructor, I'm going to add a parameter. So private auth of type auth. So we're going to use this to see if the user is logged in or not. Now here we need to add implements can activate. And this interface is defined in Angular/router. Now let's implement this. We add this method can activate. Now here we check to see if the user is logged in or not. So if this.auth.authenticated, we simply return true. Otherwise, we want to navigate the user to the login page. Now temporarily, I'm going to hardcode this login URL here, but in the future, we're going to come back and move this into a separate configuration file. So let's go to navmenu.html. So here's our login URL that takes us to the hosted login page. So let's simply copy this. Now back in the auth guard, to navigate the user to an external URL, we need to use window.location.href, and we set it to this address. And finally, we return false here. Now let's go to the app module. So app.module. So here's our admin route. I'm going to apply this auth guard on this route. So can activate. We set it to an array, and in this array, we have auth guard class. Now let's try it. So back here, I'm going to log out. Now if I go to admin route, all right, we're redirected to our login page. Beautiful. So I cannot access this admin route without logging in. Now let's navigate one more time. Okay, it's working now. Now the second step is to ensure that I have the right role to access this route. So back in the services, I'm going to add a new auth guard. admin-auth-guard.service.ts. At the same time, I'm going to go back in our auth guard and copy some code into our new class. All right, now let's change the name of this class to admin auth guard. Now, instead of implements can activate, we want to derive this class from our auth guard. So extend auth guard. Now in the constructor, we don't want to redeclare this auth field. So I'm going to go back to auth guard and change the access modifier for this field to protected, so we can inherit it in our derived classes. Now back in the new auth guard, we don't need this access modifier anymore because we'll inherit this field from the base class. Now we simply need to call super and pass this auth object to the constructor of the base class. Now in can activate, we're not going to repeat this logic. Instead, we're going to call the can activate method implemented in the base class. So super.canActivate. And this tells us if the user is authenticated or not. So is authenticated. So if this returns true, then we want to make sure that the user is in the right role. So if is authenticated, then I'm going to return this.auth.is in role of admin. Now, in case you're wondering why here I'm not using this.auth.authenticated to see if the user is logged in or not, Because I want to use this can activate in the base class to redirect the user to the login page if they are not logged in. So if they're authenticated, then we check if they're in the right role. Otherwise, we simply return false. Now we can rewrite this in a cleaner way. So return is authenticated. Then we check the role. So is in role, admin, otherwise false. That's cleaner. Now the issue we have this implementation is the hard coding of this admin role here. If in the future we need another auth guard for another role, that means with this implementation, we have to create another class like moderator auth guard and have the exact same logic with a different role. Now at the time of recording this, I'm not aware of a way to send parameters to these auth guards. So that's the best implementation I can think of. If I come up with a better implementation in the future, I will give you an update on this. So now let's go back to the app module, app.module, and change this auth guard to admin auth guard. Now, before we forget, let's make sure to register this as a provider as well. So admin auth guard. Now let's try it. At this point, I shouldn't be able to access the admin route because currently I'm not in the admin role. So back here, if I go to /admin, I get redirected back to the home page. Now we can change this implementation. So instead of immediately returning false, perhaps we can navigate the user to a page like not authorized. But that's pretty simple, and I leave that to you as an exercise.